This is Chapter 6, Section 3, Types of Social Interaction. There are 5 types of social interaction: cooperation, conflict, social exchange, coercion, and conformity, and we're going to talk about each of these today. Cooperation is interaction in which individuals or groups combine their efforts to reach a goal. So if you have people who are cooperating, they oftentimes are working together. An example of this would be agreeing to rules for a game before playing, or victims of natural disasters oftentimes work together, cooperate together to clean up their area. Conflict is interaction aimed at defeating an opponent. So we see this when we're playing on a team. We can see it in more extreme examples like war and protests, where we see 2 separate groups coming into conflict with one another. Social exchange is a voluntary action performed in the expectation of getting a reward in return. So it's kind of this idea of you help me and I'll help you in return, and this give and take idea. So if you do a favor for somebody else and you expect a favor to be done in return, that would be social exchange. Coercion is interaction in which individuals or groups are forced to behave in a particular way. So where people don't have a choice, people are required to do something. An example would be like prisoners of war camps and things like that, where you don't have people working together. You have people who have to do exactly what they are told. These behaviors are enforced using public ridicule, social rejection, sometimes imprisonment. In more extreme cases, it could end up being torture or even death. And you can see here the image on the right of cooperation. These 2 people are working together. And on the left, this one person is being told exactly what they can and cannot do. Conformity, behavior that matches group expectation. There are 2 examples mentioned in your textbook of experiments that have been performed to show conformity: the Ash experiment and the Milgram experiment. I will be posting both of these links after this lesson, and so you'll see them in the following steps. Groupthink is self-deceptive thinking that is based on conformity to group beliefs and created by group pressure to conform. And again, there's another link there that I will also be attaching in this lesson. And finally, diffusion of responsibility. This is the idea of shifting responsibility to others, and this is most likely to happen in larger groups. And we see this quite often, and it's called the bystander effect, where you have something happen, and the more people that are around, the less likely somebody is to respond or react. And in a very extreme case, there was this woman, her name is Kitty Genovese, and she was brutally attacked in New York City. And the people around heard the attack, but nobody reported it. And so she was hurt, and the man actually thought that he had killed her and left. Well, then the man thought that maybe he didn't kill her, so he went back to check, and turns out she was still alive. And so he starts to hurt her even more, and again, she's screaming out for help, and nobody helps because everybody assumed that others were calling the police or acting, and therefore, because there were so many other people living in the apartment complex, that responsibility was no longer placed on one person, and they all assumed that someone else was going to respond. Another, maybe less extreme example of this is if you're driving down the highway and you see somebody has a flat tire, you are more likely to continue driving if you're on a busy street than if you were on, a side street where maybe you and maybe one other person are around. And again, because of that diffusion of responsibility, you kind of assume, well, help might be already be on the way, or maybe they've called someone, or maybe, the last 10 people that passed by, maybe one of them stopped to check. And so we're not taking responsibility. And this is a sociological norm. This isn't something that we just do because we're selfish. This is something that is human nature and something that we all do within society. All right, you can continue now to the next step in the lesson.